الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, this speech is about our Shaykh, Shaykh Muhammad Ameen Al-Shanqiti. A great scholar, a great teacher, and that is the benefit of a journey to seek the knowledge. In Arabic it is called Al-Rihla fi Talab al-Ilm, because if you stay in your own country, you might not come across many teachers of high caliber. But once you travel and go to different countries, you will meet different scholars. So in my case, I can say that I got this journey as well from Pakistan to Al-Madinah Al-Munawwarah. And it was a real journey. How? Because in those days, in 1962, the first batch which went from Pakistan to study in Medina, because that University of Medina was set up in 1961, and in 1962 the first batch from Pakistan went there. So we have to come to Karachi, and from Karachi the Saudi embassy have provided us with tickets for a ship. So that was a voyage to Jeddah, and from Jeddah to Al-Madinah. So in those times there used to be a very large ship known as Safinatul Hujjaj, a boat for pilgrims, which used to take the pilgrims from Karachi to Jeddah, come back, and then it will take another party. Each time they can carry around 5,000 passengers. It was such a great and massive ship, Safinatul Hujjaj, of many stories. But it was July 1962 when we went by this ship to Jeddah, and because that ship has already brought the pilgrims, so when it was going back to pick more pilgrims, it was empty. There were no passengers except we 18 students and the crew of the ship. So it was a rihla, a journey for the seek of knowledge. It took 7 days. We stopped at Aden. In English it is called Eden, but it is Aden of Yemen. We stopped there and we went to Aden as well. It was a British protectorate at that time. And for a few hours, and then the boat continued with its journey to Jeddah. So it took 7 days, and after Umrah we went to Medina, and this is how we joined that university. So in that university, Alhamdulillah, at that time, this was the glorious period of Islamic university, because great teachers were there, like Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Al-Shanqiti, about whom I am going to speak a lot. And then Shaykh Muhammad Nasiruddin Al-Albani, a great muhaddis from Albania originally, but he was brought up in Syria. And then the head of the university was the greatest scholar, Shaykh Abdul Aziz bin Baz. He was the head of Islamic University, and he used to teach as well. And there were many other scholars. Among those scholars, the one who is still alive is Shaykh Abdul Muhsin Hamad Al-Abbad. He was our teacher of Aqidah, and he lives now in Medina. But his son Abdul Razak, he is a teacher in the university. 2 years after my admittance to this university, in 1964, my father joined the university as a teacher, because a deputation went to Pakistan to bring some more teachers. So our Shaykh Abdul Qadir bin Shaybatul Hamd, our teacher of Hadith, he was an Egyptian. He went to Karachi and he came to my father, and then he made a contract with him to teach in Medina. And then he went to Punjab area in Gujranwala. There was a great scholar, Hafiz Muhammad Gundalvi. So he made a contract with him as well. So these two teachers came from Pakistan. Hafiz Gundalvi, he remained only for 1 year and then he went back because of his personal circumstances. But my father remained there for 16 years until retirement. So he retired in 1980 and then went back to Pakistan. But I was saying that this is the benefit of the journey to seek knowledge. So we got such a great teacher, Shaykh Muhammad Ameen Shanqiti. Even those people who may be against him in Aqidah, means they don't agree with him in Aqidah, but after listening to him, they would admire him. And I remember that during Hajj time, because people come from various parts of the world for Hajj, they come to Makkah, they come to Medina, and some of them, they come to our university as well to just see that university. So among those visitors was the head of Tehran University. Tehran is in Iran. So you can understand that he was from Shia, but anyhow, he was the president of the university, and he asked permission to sit in the lesson of Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Al-Shanqiti. So normally they will bring a chair for a visitor to sit and listen. And for the students, of course, we got our desks. Each desk, 2 students. So my colleague who always sat with me was one from Pakistan, from the same batch, Muhammad Ibrahim al-Khalil, rahimahullah. So this man listened to the lecture of our Shaykh in Tafsir, because he was our Shaykh in Tafsir and also in Usul al-Fiqh, the principles of Fiqh. And after listening to Shaykh, he asked the Shaykh, "Can I say a few words?" And he said, "All right, say it." So he stood up and he said in Arabic, because he knew Arabic, he said that I have attended many lessons. I have seen many shuyukh, but I have never seen a Shaykh like yours, this Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Al-Shanqiti. He is just like Bukhari in Hadith. He is just like Ibn Jarir in Tafsir. He is just like Sibawayh in grammar, in Nahw, and so on and so forth. He started praising him. And then he took permission and went away. And our Shaykh, he was listening, and he got just one remark, very simple remark. Who was that person? Shu hada, man hada, man hada. He just said, man hada. Ish hada. He said, ish hada. And I also remember another incident. Our Shaykh once said in his lesson that people come to me with their degrees. Degree in Arabic language is called Shahada. So somebody would come to me and he would say, I got the Shahada of M.A. Magister, in Arabic Magister. I got the Shahada of M.A. And another would come to me and he would say, I got the Shahada of Doctorate, Doctora. And then they asked me this question, Shaykh, what is your Shahada? What is your Shahada? And Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Al-Shanqiti said, I always say to them, my Shahada is Shahadatu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. That is my Shahada. The word Shahada is there. The word Shahada is there. And my colleague, whose name was Muhammad Luqman As-Salafi from India, rahimahullah ta'ala, as well, he wrote in his book, in his biography, that In his class, when Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Shanqiti was giving his lesson, King Faisal came and he sat there and he listened to the lecture of Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Shanqiti. And of course, King Faisal was a great king and a very wise person, very educated person. So he has enjoyed his lesson. But anyhow, he did not give any remarks and then he left away. As we know that Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin, he is known as Shanqiti. Shanqiti means from Shanqit. Shanqit is Mauritania. Mauritania, but actual Arabic name is Shanqit. Shanqit is a small town in that area. If you got a map of Africa, then go to West Africa. So, all right, let us start from Egypt. From Egypt, which country is after Egypt? Libya. After Libya, Tunisia. After Tunisia, Algeria. After Algeria, Morocco. After Morocco, then you have to tell, and it comes Mauritania. So that is Mauritania, a country of desert, because it is not a green country like Tunisia and Algeria, because the greater part of Mauritania is desert. So he belongs to that country, which is Shanqit, and he was born there in 1905. 1905. Now, we can say that it was a place called, as he mentioned, a place called Kifa, which you can say a district. And in that district, you have this Itar, that is in the north of Mauritania, or Shanqit, where he was born. Now this country, because I visited that country in one of my journeys, when I was in East Africa, we went in a conference, I think it was 1975 or 76, the conference of Rabitatul Alam al-Islami. We went there. From Nairobi, we have to go to Senegal. The capital of Senegal is Dakar. From Dakar, we have to go to Shanqit. So that was the time when I have seen Shanqit. It was a very small town, which is the capital of Mauritania, is Nouakchott. So we went to Nouakchott actually. So at that time, Nouakchott was a very small town. I think the biggest building, it was the hotel where we had to stay and the conference was held. It was just on the bank of Atlantic Ocean and all desert around it, just desert. And then there is a small road going towards the town. So we used to go to the town as well sometime. And it was just one single road going to the town, and you can see the houses on both sides of that road, and maybe small alleys and some other localities. So at that time it was a very, very simple town. But one thing which we have noticed, and for this the whole country is famous, of a great number of Huffaz, those people who memorize the Quran. You will find many people, everyone is Hafiz of Quran, Hafiz of Quran. To the extent that you will find women, they are Hafizat of the Quran as well. She might be selling some vegetables, some fruits, but she is a Hafiz of the Quran, reading the Quran as well. And the second thing for which the people of Shanqit are famous, that is the poetry in Arabic. So they are also the master of the poetry. In this visit, we visited the Prime Minister who used to be Mukhtar Wild Dada. In Arabic, Wild, that is actually Walad. Mukhtar walad Dada. But in their language they always say Wild. Mukhtar will Dada. Dada is the father, Mukhtar is the son. He was the Prime Minister. And he got a very simple house as well. And he has invited some of the members of that conference. So I was one of them. And then after the dinner, there was a sitting of poetry only. So everyone who got good poetry could participate in it. So I just listened to them, but many of them, they brought very good pieces of poetry. So that is the country to which Shaykh Muhammad Al-Ameen Al-Shanqiti belongs. Before I go to more details about his life, but I want to say that when he died around the age of 70, it was 17 Zulhijjah of the last century, which is 1393 of Hijrah. 17 Zulhijjah means that just after Hajj. Just after Hajj, and he was buried in Al-Mu'alla, which is the cemetery of Makkah Al-Mukarram. The Shaykh who wrote his biography is one of our Shaykh as well from Medina. His name is Atiyah Muhammad Salim. Atiyah Muhammad Salim, he is the one who has published his tafsir of Bayan. So he has said in his biography, he says that when he died, of course he was buried in Makkah. So his funeral prayer was held in Makkah. But in Medina, there was again a prayer which is known as Salatul Ghaib. So Salatul Ghaib, a prayer of funeral prayer upon a person who is not present. That is called Salatul Ghaib. It was held in the mosque of the Prophet ﷺ. Imam was Shaykh Abdul Aziz bin Salih al-Shaykh. Accidentally he said that he read in first ayah of Salatul Isha, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ كَانَتْ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتُ الْفِرْدَوْسِ نُزُلًا. That is the last part of Surah Al-Kahf. Those people who believed and did good deeds, كانت لهم جنات الفردوس نزلا. For them are the gardens of paradise as a place of entertainment. In first rakah. And in the second rakah, he read the ayat, last ayat of Surah Maryam. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. Those people who believed and did good deeds, Allah Rahman is going to make for them love in the hearts of the people. So Shaykh Atiyah asked the Shaykh, did you read these ayat intentionally? Because you have to read Salatul Janazah upon Shaykh Muhammad Al-Ameen Al-Shanqiti. He said, no, it came accidentally in my mind when I read these ayat. So that was Shaykh Muhammad Al-Ameen bin Muhammad Al-Mukhtar bin Abdul Qadir bin Muhammad bin Ahmad Nuh. And among their grandfathers, there is one called Yaqub bin Jakin. So because of Jakin, which is his grandfather, he is also known as Al-Jukani. It is an attribution to Jakin, Al-Jukani. So you will find his name, Shaykh Muhammad bin Al-Ameen Al-Shanqiti Al-Jukani, because of that name. So, how was his learning? And he, of course, he learned at home, but his father died when he was still a very young child. He just finished his Juz Amma at that time when his father died. So he was brought up by his maternal uncle. This is something good in Urdu language, that we got different terms for maternal uncle and paternal uncle. Huh? Paternal uncle is chacha and maternal uncle is mamu. But in Arabic and in English it is just uncle. In Arabic different name. In Arabic for maternal uncle is khal, and for paternal uncle is am. But in English that is just uncle. So he was brought up in the house of his maternal uncle, where he finished Al-Quran, and he memorized Al-Quran upon his maternal uncle Abdullah bin Muhammad al-Mukhtar. And he also learned Rasm of Al-Mushaf al-Usmani. Rasm, what is Rasm? Because this word Rasm, normally Rasm means to draw something, that is called Rasm. But when it is used for Quran, then it means something else. It means that they don't learn hifz only, but they also learn that the Quranic words, how they are written. Where is madda? Where is no madda written, but still you have to pronounce it as madda. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. That is madda. And you will see the sign of madda. Sometimes there is no sign of madda, but still you have to prolong your voice with the letter. And we know that there are three letters which are prolonged in your voice: alif and waw and ya. And in Rasm, they also learn something else. Which word is mentioned in Quran only once? Which word is mentioned twice? And how it is mentioned? Which word is mentioned thrice? And with what variation? And so on and so forth. So when a person is memorizing Al-Quran and he knows that this is the same words for the word, for example, in Surah Al-Qamar, وَلَقَدْ أَهْلَكْنَا أَشْيَاعَكُمْ, the word ashya, وَلَقَدْ أَهْلَكْنَا أَشْيَاعَكُمْ bil-fatha. And in Surah Saba, the word is kama fu'ila bi ashya'ihim. So the word ashya is used only twice in the Quran. So once it is mansub ashya'akum, and once it is majroor bi ashya'ihim. In the same word, the word a'yunuhum, that has been used 3 times. The word a'yunuhum in the Quran. So that is going to help the person not to do any mistake in his hifz, if he knows that this word in this surah it is coming mansub with fatha, and in this surah it is coming marfu dhamma, and in this surah it is coming majroor kasra. And he also says that I have read grammar, which is a nahw, upon my aunt, the wife of his maternal uncle. And as I said that the women, they were also very well versed in Arabic language. And they used to learn ansab as well. Ansab means all the family lines of the tribe. And then especially the family line of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the other thing is that most of these knowledges, they would learn it in poetry. Because in poetry, it is easier for you to memorize it. So once you memorize any of these knowledges, then you grasp them. You grasp the whole grammar, the whole seerah, the whole usul al-fiqh, the whole usul al-hadith. That becomes very easy for them. So Shaykh Shanqiti, mashallah, he learned all these knowledges in the poetry in the beginning. And then he himself wrote the poetry as well of some of these knowledges. And then he learned the other sciences or other knowledges like Al-Fiqh al-Maliki and all other knowledges I'm going to mention about them. But the main thing is, he says, the way they were taught, tariqatul ta'lim, the way they were taught. It is a Bedouin country. There are no schools, no colleges, no madaris. So what happens, a Shaykh comes from anywhere and then he stays at one place, either in a tent or in a house, and then the students flock to him to learn the knowledge from him. So this place is called Murabit. So the Shaykh, when he comes to a place, he becomes Murabit there as if he is just guarding that place. If he is himself a wealthy person, he would help the students with food, with other of their needs. And if he himself is not a rich person, then people are going to help him. People of that locality are going to help him. And another thing which was very interesting, that one time only one knowledge is given. In Arabic it is called fan. Fannul Nahw, Fannul Sarf, Fannul Hadith, Fannul Tafsir. Fan means knowledge. So at one time only one fan is taught. Once you finish it, then you move to another fan. So this will make you a very good, knowledgeable person in that fan. In the case of Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Al-Shanqiti, when they have seen that this person is very intelligent, they allowed him to learn 2 fan at one time. That was only for him, this facility. All other they have to learn only 1 fan. Now we can notice the way Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Shanqiti has taken his knowledge, that he did not travel in the beginning. All his knowledge came in the house of his maternal uncle. He himself says about himself that I was a lad who loves playing, And my family, they will say to me, sit and learn. So he says that when they told me the alphabet, which is known in Arabic as At-Tahjiyah alphabet, and how each letter is pronounced with fatha or kasra or dhamma. Alif zabar a, we say like this, alif fatha a, alif dhamma u, alif kasra e, that is called the i'rab. So he said that when they taught me just 1 or 2 letters, and they say, oh, next day we are going to teach you more letters. He said, no, I will learn myself, because it is very easy. So he will pick all the letters and how they are pronounced. Once he finished the memorization of Al-Quran and also the knowledge of Rasm, which I have just explained, his maternal uncle and the family were so happy that her aunt provided him now for a journey. Now you can go to another place to learn more. So they prepared for him, for his journey, 2 camels. 1 camel for him to travel upon, and his books. So he and his books are on 1 camel, and the second camel got all what he needs, his food, his clothes, every other thing which he needed in his journeys. And 1 servant who got so many cows with him as well. So you can imagine that this person belonged to a rich family, a good family. So with all these 2 camels and so many cows and the servant, he now started traveling until he found a Shaykh. And he said, the Shaykh said to him, "What do you want?" And he answered him in Arabic poetry. And when he answered him in Arabic poetry, he was so impressed, he said, "Yes, come and learn from me." Here it is also mentioned that when he was young, maybe 15 years old or 16 years old, somebody suggested to him to marry. You should marry now. So he said, "Seeking knowledge is more important to me." So he used to attend his Shaykh. If any issue becomes very difficult for him to understand, he was not satisfied with the answer of his Shaykh. So a certain issue became very delicate, complicated for him. So he said that, "Let me find the answer myself, because Shaykh can't satisfy me." So he got a servant with him as well. From Zohar prayer, he started reading the book about this issue. Then Asr came, he prayed Asr. Then he started reading until Maghrib was due, he prayed Maghrib. And then his servant, he kindled the fire, because it was a Bedouin life, he kindled the fire for night, gave him some tea, and he started taking the tea, which is green tea, and reading the book as well. He prayed Isha. After Isha, he started reading as well. He kept on reading until Fajr time. Fajr time, he has solved the question. He has solved that difficulty which he has come across. So after the prayer, Fajr prayer, he went to sleep. And here I remember that famous line of poetry by Mutanabbi. Al-Mutanabbi was a great poet, as you know. He said, "يَغُوصُ الْبَحْرَ مَنْ طَلَبَ الْعَالِي وَمَنْ طَلَبَ الْعُلَى سَهِرَ اللَّيَالِي." يَغُوصُ الْبَحْرَ مَنْ طَلَبَ الْعَالِي. The person who wants pearls, he dives long, deep into the sea. And the person who is seeking after a great place in the world, سَهِرَ اللَّيَالِي, he remains awake at night time. He remains awake at night time for what? For learning, not for watching the TV. No, for learning, for books. And he got an appetite for poetry as well. So he has written some poetry, and then he abandoned it. And then once he was asked, "Why did you abandon saying the poetry?" He said that poetry is not a character of good, great people. Because in poetry, they say the best poetry is أَكْذَبُهُ أَعْظَبُهُ. أَكْذَبُهُ أَعْظَبُهُ. More you lie in the poetry, more sweeter it becomes. And then he said, Imam Shafi, he was a poet as well. Imam Shafi was a poet. But Imam Shafi has said, وَلَوْلَا الشِّعْرُ بِالْعُلَمَاءِ يُزْرِي لَكُنْتُ أَشْعَرَ مِنْ لَبِيدِي. وَلَوْلَا الشِّعْرُ بِالْعُلَمَاءِ يُزْرِي. Why did I leave the poetry? Because the poetry is going to bring a defect to an alim, to a knowledgeable person. Because of that reason, I have abandoned it. But if I wanted to continue with the poetry, I would be a greater poet than the famous poet in Jahiliyyah, Labid ibn Rabi'a. Labid ibn Rabi'a was a very, very great poet of Jahiliyyah, who said, Ala kullu shay'in ma khalallaha batilu, wa kullu na'imin, wa kullu na'iman ba'daha la za'ilu. Labid became Muslim, and he is known as Mukhadram. Mukhadram means that he got Jahiliyyah and he got Islam both. So he lived 60 years in Jahiliyyah and 60 years in Islam. وَلَا كُلُّ شَيْءٍ مَا خَلَى اللَّهَ بَاطِلُ وَكُلُّ نَعِيمٍ لَا مَحَالَةَ زَائِلُ. لَا مَحَالَةَ زَائِلُ. That is his line of poetry. He was also, Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Shanqiti, after getting all these knowledges, he became very famous in giving decisions in disputes, al-qada. So people used to come to him to have decisions in their matters. And his way of deciding the issue was that when two persons come to him for any dispute, first thing he would ask them, sign here that you are going to accept my decision. That is the first. So if they both sign, then he would say to the claimant, al-mudda'i, write your plea, whatever you want to write, whatever you are claiming against this other person. And then he will show it to the defendant or respondent, and respondent would write his answer. And then Shaykh would compare both of them, and then he would write his decision. And then he would say to them, this is my decision, take it to anybody, to any other Shaykh, show him this decision. So if they have to differ with it, then I am going to see why they are differing with me. But nobody would differ with the decision of Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Al-Shanqiti. These people would show that decision to the rulers. Rulers means the governor of that province, for example. And when they say, oh, this is from Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Shanqiti, yes, we are going to implement his decision. Except for two things, he would not give his decision. That is, if the matter is related to hudud or to the blood. If somebody has murdered someone, he said, no, it will go to the proper qadi, which was appointed by the government. At those days, that area was governed by the French. It was a French colony. So, it was the duty of the French governor to give his decisions in the matter of murder. But he has made a committee of two Shaykh, two Mashayikh. And this committee is going to look into the decision of the ruler. So Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Al-Shanqiti was one member of that committee as well. So it means that the governor said that we are not going to take the law of retaliation, al-qisas. We are not going to kill a person because he murdered someone until these two Shaykh will approve that decision. So it shows that how great an esteemed position Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Al-Shanqiti got. Now comes his journey towards Hajj, and that has changed everything. He went for Hajj, and of course that was a long route from Mauritania. He passed by Sudan as well. Wherever he went, people knew about his knowledge, and they are going to benefit from him. Same happens when he was in Mecca. He went for Hajj, he was in Medina. He got his own tent. Next to his tent was the tent of Al-Amir Khalid Al-Sudairi. Amir Khalid Al-Sudairi, the Prince Khalid Al-Sudairi. Because Sudairi is that tribe from where comes the mother or the wife of King Abdul Aziz, the founder of modern Saudi Arabia. So, those sons who were born from this Sudairi mother, they are 7 who ruled right from the beginning. King Saud, and then King Faisal, and then King Khalid. So they are all Sudairi, they are known as Sudairi. So that was the tent of Khalid al-Sudairi. And in this tent, because in Mina, daytime, you got nothing to do. So there was a sitting in which they were discussing some poetry. And they might have some difficulty to understand one specific line of poetry in which they got some difference of opinion. Somebody said, there is a great Shaykh from Mauritania in next tent, bring him. So they invited him. And Shaykh Al-Amin Shanqiti, when he spoke about the poetry, about the explanation of that poet, of that poem, Khalid al-Sudairi was so impressed. He said, when you go to Medina, meet the Shaykh there, the Shaykh of Al-Masjid al-Nabawi, Shaykh Abdul Aziz bin Saleh, and then another Shaykh, Shaykh Abdullah al-Zahim. It means, of course, that he recommended him to these 2 shuyukh, maybe by a letter. So when he came to Al-Madinah and he met these 2 shaykh, they were also very impressed by his knowledge. But till that time, Shaykh Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti was well versed in Maliki fiqh, the fiqh of Imam Malik, which is prevalent in all Western Africa. So Shaykh Abdul Aziz bin Saleh gave him the famous Hanbali fiqh book, Al-Mughni. Mughni is only in fiqh, but he gave him the books of Shaykh al-Islam. When we say Shaykh al-Islam, means Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. So Shaykh Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti, before that he did not read Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah at all. But here he got the opportunity to read the book of Shaykh al-Islam, and this is how he knew about the difference between Al-Asha'ira in Al-Aqidah and the Mazhab of Salaf of Imam Ahmad, especially about the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the main issue, which is the issue of Sifat. And Shaykh Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti completely changed his opinion, and he adopted the opinion of Salaf. King Abdul Aziz allowed him to start his lesson in Masjid al-Nabawi, in the Mosque of Al-Madinah. So this is how he started his lesson in the Mosque of Al-Madinah. And because he was not very familiar with the books of Hadith, and when people started asking him questions about different fiqh issue, at that time Shaykh Muhammad al-Amin Shanqiti started reading by himself, like Fathul Bari, which is the explanation of Sahih al-Bukhari, and Nail al-Awtar, which is a book by Ash-Shawkani, in all fiqh issues, but based upon the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So we can say that his knowledge of hadith expanded a lot. Before that, he was a very famous scholar in tafsir of Al-Quran, in grammar, in all other, in usul. But now, mashallah, he acquired the knowledge of hadith as well. I have heard his lecture in Al-Madinah, not in the university itself. There was another institution in Al-Madinah which is known as Darul Hadith. Darul Hadith is a very, very old institution, and it was started by some famous wealthy persons who came from Delhi, from India, and they used to sponsor Darul Hadith. So Darul Hadith was a seat of knowledge as well, and it still exists. So in Darul Hadith, I have heard his lecture about Al-Asma wa Sifat, the attributes, the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even Shaykh ibn Baz was there to listen to this lecture, and it has been published. This lecture is now published and it is available. The other great mashayikh of Saudi Arabia, like Shaykh Abdul Latif bin Ibrahim Al-Shaykh, when he heard his lecture about the attributes and about Salaf, he was impressed a lot that this person is totally expanding the aqidah of Salaf in these matters. He started his lesson in Al-Masjid al-Nabi in 1363 of Hijrah, after the death of a Shaykh al-Tayyib, who was delivering the lessons before him. So after his death in 1363, he started his lessons, which was in the tafsir. And of course, the way of Shaykh was a unique way. He would mention the grammar as well. He would mention the background of each and every ayah. After 7 years in 1371, because in Riyadh, Al-Mahad al-Ilmi, like Darul Ulum, an institution for knowledge, was started. So he moved to Riyadh. And after Al-Mahad al-Ilmi, then a college of Sharia was started as well. First the college of Sharia, the second the college of language, Kulliyatul Law. So he moved to Riyadh, where he stayed for 7 years. In 1381 of Hijrah, Islamic University of Medina was established, 1381, which is 1961. So 1381, Islamic University started, and he was invited to be a lecturer in this university. So once again he moved back to Al-Madinah. And this is how we benefited from him, because he was there in Al-Madinah. And he got his lessons in the morning, in the university, in the evening. He got a lesson after Maghrib in the mosque as well. And as I said before, that he was very famous for tafsir and also for usul al-fiqh. So we have learned from him usul al-fiqh as well, and some mostly in tafsir, but also some lessons in usul. At one point he was given the nationality of Saudi Arabia by the king. So this is how he settled down in Saudi Arabia. He came from Mauritania for Hajj, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted him to stay in Al-Hijaz, in Makkah al-Madinah. The king of Morocco, Muhammad al-Khamis, Muhammad the Fifth, came to Riyadh. And when he was coming to Al-Madinah, he said, I want the company of the Shaykh. So Shaykh Muhammad Ameen Shanqiti came with him to Al-Madinah, and in Al-Madinah, in front of him and some other dignitaries, he gave the lecture about this ayah, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-Islam deena. So this became a very, very famous lecture, which has been printed later. Anyhow, I graduated in 1966, so I left 1967. I left Al-Madinah, going to my first appointment, that was in East Africa, Nairobi. Shaykh himself, I graduated, you can say, according to Hijrah date, which was 66, Hijrah would be 86 of Hijrah. So in 86 of Hijrah, another institution was opened in Riyadh, which is known as Ma'hadul Qada al-Ali, Ma'hadul Qada al-Ali, the institution of, the higher institution for judiciary. So Shaykh Muhammad al-Amin Shanqiti was given a task to stay 2 weeks in Medina and then another 2 weeks in Riyadh to give lectures there as well. So now he started moving between Medina and Riyadh. There is another institution in Saudi Arabia called Hay'atu Kibar al-Ulama. After the death of the first Mufti, Muhammad ibn Ibrahim, he was the Grand Mufti. There was no committee beside him. But after his death, the government has established a committee for great scholars. So it is known as Hay'atu Kibar al-Ulama. And Shaykh Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti was one of the member of that committee to give fatwa. Rabitatul Alam al-Islami, that was also established the same year, I think, when Medina University was established in 1961. And Shaykh Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti was the founder member of Rabita as well. What happened that when this Rabita was established, there was a delegation from Iran. And they wanted to be a member in Rabita as well. And they also wanted something specific, that you have to recognize Al-Mazhab al-Ja'fari. Al-Madhab al-Ja'fari is the madhab of Shia. They say that officially you should recognize it, so we would become a member of Rabitatul Alam al-Islami as well. Now how to treat them, that was a very difficult job. They gave their job to Shaykh Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti, deal with them. So Shaykh Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti sat with the delegation of Iran, and he explained to them that there are many things which are common between us and you. You believe in prayer, you in zakat, in fasting, in hajj. These are all common things. And because of common things, we can be united. We can sit together. But again, there are few things which are a bone of contention among us. There are differences as well. So I suggest that you send a delegation of ulama, some scholars, your scholars, to us, and we scholars will sit with them and we will discuss all these issues in which we are differing. And once the haqq emerges, haqq comes out, then you have to accept it. And there will be no problem if you join the Rabita. And you know that, are they going to accept this condition? No, they never accepted this condition. And this is how they have solved this problem. Shaykh Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti got so many books, but very famous books and very books of great knowledge. There are not many. You can say just 9 books. The top of these 9 books is his tafsir book, Adwa'ul Bayan fi Sharh al-Quran bil-Quran. And this book, as I said in the beginning, was published, edited by Shaykh Atiyah Muhammad Salim, one of the teachers in Al-Madinah University and one of his students. So Adwa'ul Bayan, which was dictated by Shaykh, and this dictation ended with Suratul Mujadala. Suratul Mujadala is the first surah of 28th part of Al-Quran. And that was the end of tafsir which Shaykh Muhammad al-Amin al-Shanqiti dictated by himself. And then he died. So Shaykh Atiyah Muhammad Salim, what he did, he compiled the remaining tafsir from Suratul Hashr. till the end, Surah An-Nas, which is around 2 parts of Al-Quran, by taking the knowledge from different tapes, because Shaykh must have given so many lectures about these surah as well. So he listened to these tapes, and then he also adopted the methodology which Shaykh adopted in all his book of tafsir. So whatever he writes will be in line with the usul of Al-Imam Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Al-Shanqiti. That is Adwal Bayan. And then there are some small treatises or small books. There are 3. One is Man'u Jawaz al-Majaz fil Munazzal lit-Ta'abbud wal-Ijaz. Because Shaykh believes that there is no majaz in Al-Quran. Majaz is opposite of Al-Haqiqa. Al-Haqiqa is the real meaning, Al-Majaz is the figurative meaning. So Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Al-Shanqiti would say that there is no majaz in Al-Quran. I just give you one example. For example, in Surah Yusuf, when the brethren of Yusuf are saying, the elder brother has sent a message to his father, وَاسْأَلِ الْقَرْيَةَ الَّتِي كُنَّا فِيهَا وَالْعِيرَ الَّتِي أَقْبَلْنَا فِيهَا. وَاسْأَلِ الْقَرْيَةَ الَّتِي كُنَّا فِيهَا. Ask the village where we were. Village is a modern term of Qarya, but the olden term is the town, because Makkah is Qura, is the mother of the towns. You can't say mother of the villages, mother of the towns. So Qarya, وَاسْأَلِ الْقَرْيَةَ الَّتِي كُنَّا فِيهَا. Ask that Qarya, the town where we were. Yani, did we do any stealing or not? So those people who believe in majaz, in figurative language, they would say, this is majaz. You can't ask the town. It means you have to ask the people in the town. So al-Qarya means Ahl al-Qarya. Was'al Ahl al-Qarya, the people of the town. But Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Al-Shanqiti would say, no. These are all the different ways known in Arabic language, that a person would address something which is not human. They would address it. And when they address it, it does not mean that you have to find majaz here. No, that was a way of their expression. For example, Imra al-Qais, the famous poet, is addressing the night. Ala ayyuha al-laylu at-tawilu alanjali bi subhin wa mal isbahu minka bi amsali. He is addressing the night. Oh night, come to an end, come to an end. But then he says, even if you come to an end, the morning would not be different than you. So he says that this is a way of Arabic language, addressing the night. In the same way, when you say, Was'al al-Qarya, ask the town, we understand that it means that we have to ask the people. So it is not a figurative language. So this book, and the other book is Daf'u Iham al-Istirab an Ayil Kitab. There are sometimes some ayat in the Quran which seems to be contradictory among themselves. But Shaykh would explain that there is no contradiction. For example, in Surah Al-Rahman, فَيَوْمَئِذٍ لَا يُسْأَلُ عَنْ ذَنْبِهِ إِنسٌ وَلَا جَانٌ. That day nobody is going to be questioned, whether a human being or a jinn. Nobody is going to be questioned. And the other surah says, وَقِفُوهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ لَمَسْئُولُونَ. Stop them, they are going to be questioned. So it seems contradictory. So Shaykh is going to explain that there is no contradiction here, no contradiction here. These are 2 different stages. There is one stage when people would come out from their graves, there would be no questioning at that time. And there would be another stage when everybody is going to be stopped and questioned. So in this way, he is going to explain all the contradictory ayat in the Quran. And his third famous book is Muzakkaratul Usul ala Rawzatil Nadir. Rawdatul Nazir, that is the book of Usul al-Fiqh in Fiqh al-Hanbali, and he did an explanation of that book. Anyhow, he got these 9 books, many famous lectures. I have mentioned 2 of them. And because I can see the time as well, so how much time we can take now? All right. So we can take few more points. That Shaykh, if in the course of his discussion, if he thinks that what he said before was wrong, and now the true thing has appeared in front of him, he would accept that truth. He is not like those scholars who becomes arrogant. Even if they are wrong, they are not going to accept they are wrong. They would say, whatever we have said, that is final. But Shaykh was not of that nature. And he said that though people normally when they go for Hajj, they do Hajj tamattu. Hajj tamattu means you do your Umrah, come out of the state of Ihram, then you do your Hajj. That is called tamattu. And there is Hajj Qiran, you do your Umrah and Hajj together. Don't pull out of your Ihram in between. And there is Ifrad, means just to have the intention of Hajj only, with no Umrah. Now there is a great discussions between the scholars that which one is more meritorious, which one is going to attract you more reward. So normally they say that is tamattu Hajj, tamattu. And some people would say that you can't do ifrad. Ifrad is only for the people of Makkah. People who live in Makkah, they need not to go for Umrah. They live there. So on the day of Hajj, they will go straight away to Mina, and from Mina to Arafat. So ifrad is only for the people of Makkah. But in Madhab Maliki, they say the afdal Hajj, the most meritorious Hajj is ifrad. They say ifrad. So what Shaykh Shanqiti did, he believed that ifrad is jaiz. He does not say that he is the more meritorious, but it is jaiz. Just to show that it is jaiz, once he did ifrad. And he went from Medina, he did his ifrad Hajj, just to show the people that they must not think that ifrad is not jaiz. No, it is jaiz. In the another example is that he has written in one of his lectures, or he has said in one of his lectures, that the 4 sacred months, their sanctity, that has been abrogated. Al-Ashhur al-Haram mansukha, that is abrogated. But later, when he came to Al-Madinah, he said, no, I was wrong. Al-Ashhur al-Haram, they are not abrogated. They are, the ruling still is applicable. In the very same way, he has written in his book about the jewelry which is used by the woman. The jewelry which is used by the woman, there are 2 opinions. One opinion is that even there is zakat in jewelry which you are wearing. And the evidence is that the hadith of Jabir, that the Prophet ﷺ has seen a woman with a young girl which got 2 golden bangles in her hands or arms. And the Prophet ﷺ said, do you pay zakat for these 2 bangles? She said, no. Then the Prophet said, then these 2 bangles are the bangles of fire. Throw them. So from there, the ruling comes that if you have given zakat, then it was jaiz for you, or jaiz for the woman to wear. And the second opinion is that there is no zakat in such jewelry which is worn by the woman. That is the opinion of Shafi'iyah. And the opinion of Hanafiya is that even the jewelry which is worn by the woman, there is zakat applicable. And according to this hadith, this opinion of Hanafiya, that is stronger. So what Shaykh Shanqiti has written in his book, he said that this hadith which says that the Prophet said to that girl, did you pay the zakat of that? That was at that time when wearing gold was haram upon women. Wearing gold was haram upon women. Later they were allowed to wear the gold. So this is why the Prophet ﷺ said that you have to throw them into the fire if you don't pay zakat. So he said these words that this was the time when wearing golden jewelry for women was haram. I have checked it this morning, Tafsir Abwaul Bayan as well. Yes, it is written there. Somebody said to him later, Shaykh, just tell us one thing. If it was haram upon the woman to wear the jewelry, the Prophet ﷺ cannot approve something haram at all. He should have said to the woman, this is haram upon you, throw it. But he did not say that. He said, do you pay zakat? If you pay zakat, then it is all right. If you don't pay zakat, then it becomes something wrong for you, and throw it. Prophet is not going to say about a haram thing that it is haram but give zakat for it. It can't be. And Shaykh Shanqiti said, yes. This is the point I did not realize. And he said that when my book is going to be printed once again, I am going to correct it. So that is a great character of such a person, to admit his mistake. And it is just like the saying of Sayyidina Umar. He wrote a famous letter to Abu Musa al-Ashari, who was appointed as a governor. وَلَا يَمْنَعَنَّكَ قَضَاءٌ قَضَيْتَهُ بِالْأَمْسِ ثُمَّ رَاجَعْتَ فِيهِ نَفْسَكَ وَظَهَرَ لَكَ الْحَقِّ أَنْ تَأْخُذَ بِهِ فَالْحَقُّ أَحَقُّ أَنْ يُتَّبَعَ. If you have given a decision yesterday, and then you thought about it, and then it appeared to you that this decision was wrong, then you have to refute that decision and accept what is the truth. فَالْحَقُّ أَحَقُّ أَنْ يُتَّبَعَ. Because haqq is more deserving to be followed. Here, let me mention a interesting conversation between him and my father. Because my father, Shaykh Abdul Ghaffar Hasan, he was a teacher there as well. And it was reported by someone. And then we have reported this conversation in our book about my father. Now here is another opinion of Al-Imam Al-Shanqiti, Muhammad Al-Amin Al-Shanqiti. He believes that those ayat in Al-Quran, khasatan in Surah Al-Naml, which says that those people who are in the grave, they can't listen. وَمَا أَنْتَ بِمُسْمِعٍ مَنْ فِي الْقُبُورِ. Those people who are in the grave, you can't let them hear something. وَلَا تُسْمِعُ الصُّمَّ الدُّعَاءِ. In Surah Al-Rum as well. Those people who are deaf, you can't make them listen. That is about deaf, of course, deaf people can't listen. But وَإِنَّكَ لَا تُسْمِعُ الْمَوْتَى وَلَا تُسْمِعُ الصُّمَّ الدُّعَاءِ. Before deaf it says, إِنَّكَ لَا تُسْمِعُ الْمَوْتَى. You can't make the dead people hear. And then وَمَا أَنْتَ بِمُسْمِعٍ مَنْ فِي الْقُبُورِ. Those people who are in the graves, you can't make them listen. And this is our opinion. This is the majority, the right opinion, that you can't make them listen. The thing which they listen, that is because once a person is buried, just after burial, two angels come and they ask certain questions. Man rabbuka, ma dinuka, maza taqulu fi hadha ar-rajul, and about the Prophet ﷺ, these three questions. But there is in this hadith that the soul is returned to the body when these questions are asked. And the greater evidence for that is that the very same hadith says that innal mayyita yasma'u qar'a ni'alihim, that the dead person, he hears the sound of the retreating steps of the people. When people are after the burial, they go back, so the dead person, he hears the sound of their retreating steps. Why? Because that was the time when the questioning was done. The soul was there. The soul not in its full capacity. The soul is returned only to such a capacity that he could answer the questions. But because the soul is there, this is why he hears the step sound as well. And hadith does not say that he also listens to the step sound when the people were coming to bury him. It does not say that, because he was dead. There was no soul at that time. But our Shaykh Muhammad Ameen Shanqiti, he got his opinion here. He says that the dead hears. The dead hears. And his dalil is that when you go to the cemetery, you say, Assalamu alaikum ya ahl al-qubur, antum salafuna wa nahnu bil asr. O people of the graves, Assalamu alaikum. Salam is upon you. So he says that you are addressing. So it means that they listen to you. This is what he has written in Surah Al-Naml, Tafsir of Surah Al-Naml. And he says that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّكَ لَا تُسْمِعُ الْمَوْتَى, you can't make the dead people hear, it means kuffar people who are just like dead people, who don't want to understand anything. So al-mawta here means the dead, the kuffar people. This is what he says. So the narrator says that my father said to him, to Shaykh Muhammad Ameen Shanqiti, what is the dua of the new crescent? When we see the new crescent, we say, Allahumma ahillahu alayna bil amni wal islam, bil amni wal iman, wal salamati wal islam. Rabbi wa rabbuka Allah. Rabbi wa rabbuka Allah. Don't we say these words? Addressing to the moon, that my Rabb and your Rabb is Allah. You are addressing the moon. Rabbi wa rabbuka. Do you mean that moon hears you? No, but this is an expression. This is an expression. It does not mean that moon is hearing you. In the very same way, when you enter a cemetery, you say, Assalamu alaikum ya ahl al-qubur. It does not mean that you are addressing them and they listen to you. It is dua. Assalamu alaikum. It is dua. May be peace upon you. This is just dua. Anyhow, the narrator says that Shaykh Shanqiti was just smiling, but he did not reply. He did not reply. He was just smiling. Now let us move to a few more points, very, very briefly, and a few things about his own character, that how generous he was, how zahid he was, and he will be content with anything, anything small. He does not look towards the wealth in the hands of other people. He was very, very generous and very good in character. This is why when he came to Saudi Arabia, he brought his slave with him. At that time slavery was prevalent even in West Africa. And during the time of King Abdul Aziz, slavery was abolished. When slavery was abolished, Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Shanqiti has to liberate the slave as well. So he said to him, "You are free now." This person could have gone, could have left him. But he said, "No, Shaykh, I am going to live with you. Though I am free now, but I want to live with you. I want to serve you." And we have seen this person who used to drive Shaykh Muhammad Al-Amin Shanqiti. He got all these books, and especially Adwa al-Bayan, but he did not try to earn money through these books. This is a great character. And he said about this factor that when I came from Mauritania, I came with a great treasure, very great treasure. Jitu bi kanzin azim. Ma hiya al-kanzul azim? Ma huwa al-kanzul azim? What was this great treasure? Al-qana'a. He said contentness. Contentness. I am content with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me. He is great to seek knowledge. And again, one thing which is very, very striking, he is not going to backbite any person. He was never hurt to say anything bad about a person. He used to say to his brother, this is a very, very strange word, itakayasu, itakayasu, itakayasu. What means itakayasu? In Arabic, is there any word like this, itakayasu? But there is from kayasa, from al-kayyis, al-kayyis, al-kayyis. So he would say to them, itakayasu, become kayyis, become kayyis. And what does it mean, become kayyis? Not to backbite any person. Preserve your tongue. Preserve your tongue. This is what he means. And in his last years of his life, he stopped giving fatwa. Instead, he would say, scholars, they say this opinion, some other scholars, they gave this opinion, but he would not give any opinion at all. And among his children, there were two of his sons. They were great scholars of Islam as well, and they are the teacher in Sharia College. So these are the things which I think that is enough for this session, because I wanted to give some characteristics of his tafsir as well. But that I think will become a different issue completely. We are not going to cover it today at all. Whatever I have said, it is enough today. For today it is enough. Insha'Allah. Sallallahu ta'ala ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.